good to see you all. Special happy Father's Day to everybody. I want to wish my father, who watches us, happy Father's Day. Some people always wonder, why are you the way you are? Sometimes in a good way, sometimes in a bad way. Well, most of it I get from my parents. But I was fortunate to have three great fathers in my life. My father and my two grandfathers. And I can see myself in them all the time, or them in me. But just the different things I do, the way I think, the way I go about my business, I can see my father and my grandfathers. And one of the best things they taught me was, well, first of all, how to be a husband, how to be faithful, how to work hard, to care for their family, and all of that. But really, even more important than that is how to spiritually be a man of God. And you can see that in all the things they did. They were always people willing to help somebody else, to give of themselves, to sacrifice of themselves. It didn't matter, but also cared about the spiritual health of those around them. Wanted to teach them, wanted to show them, wanted to be a light. And all three of them were such great examples of that. I really had no choice but to be like them. And I do want to thank them. I want to thank my father for the example he was to me and is still to me. So happy Father's Day. So with that, let's get to this week's miracle. And I start with you on your paper with a question. It's not there on the board, but a question right there at the top is, what are you doing? And it's summertime. And we were actually talking to the kids last night, summer vacation. So Kim's out of a job. So, no, she's not. So all the teachers are taking it easy, doing nothing. No, they're not, really not at all. But during the school year, the kids are always complaining that they don't have enough what? Time. Oh, got to go to school. I got to get up early. Got to go to school. I have all this homework. I got these things to do. If I only had more time. And, you know, I always wonder, what are you going to do with that spare time? Right? What are you going to do with all that free time you have? And they've got big plans. Oh, we're going to go outside and play. We're going to go to the pool. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. If we had more free time, think of all the great things we can do. And now it is summer, and now they have the free time. Anybody want to guess what they're doing? Sleeping, playing video games, staying inside because it's too hot, laying around doing nothing. So we'll come back to this, but I want to ask you something. What are you doing? With all the blessings of God, of all the things that God has done for you, as He has changed you. We looked at that miracle, right? Being able to change water to wine. He likewise has changed us. As He has gotten us through the storms, or is working with us through the storms, as He has given us sight, all these great miracles, all these great blessings, what are you doing with them? We wanted them, we asked for them, we even prayed for them. We asked God to help us and see us through. What are we then doing with these great blessings of God? And that especially comes up today. Because today we're going to see a man who could not walk. Let's all go to John chapter 5, and we're going to start in verse 1. And we're going to see a man who could not stand, could not walk, and we sang those songs today that God gave us the ability to stand, put us on a solid rock, allows us to walk, right? And we see a man here who could not physically walk for 38 years. Is that a long time, by the way? Yeah, some of you are like, I'm not even 38 years old. So, be most of your life, be most of my life, believe it or not. 38 years would be a long time not being able to walk. And we see this situation starting in John chapter 5, verse 1. After this, there was a feast of the Jews. Now, it could be many different feasts. It doesn't actually say which one. A feast of the Jews, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. So it must have been a major feast, and He would always go to Jerusalem for these feasts. In fact, it was a feast that He went to when they eventually arrested Him. Was going for that one. So, verse 2, now there is at Jerusalem by the sheep gate or sheep market a pool, which is called in the Hebrew tongue Bethesda, having 5 porches, places where people could kind of hang out and see the pool, right? In these lay a great multitude of impotent folk, people who could not walk, those who were blind, those who were halt, those who were withered, waiting for the moving of the water. Why? Why would you go hang out at a pool waiting for the water to move? Because there was a tradition, a myth, some would say it actually happened. Verse 4, for an angel went down at a certain season into the pool and troubled the water. Whosoever then first, after the troubling of the water, stepped in, was made whole of whatsoever disease he had. And if you had been for 38 years unable to walk, would you hang out at this pool? If you've been blind, would you go and stand by this pool? If you were all these things, and there were how many people? Multitudes of people hanging around because it was that season. It was when they believed the angel would come down, and it was believed that whoever got in first. Now, I don't know if it ever happened. I don't know if the first person to get in really didn't have any problem anyways. I don't know. I have no idea what the truth is here, except that this is what they believed, right? And Jesus comes upon this scene. I want first of all to notice something, verse 5. And a certain man was there which had an infirmity 38 years, when Jesus saw him lie. Now in this situation, it's not the man who comes to Jesus. It is who that comes to whom. Jesus saw him. Now were there other people were there blind people there that needed help? Could he have healed them? Were there people with withered limbs that he could have helped? Were there people who had other diseases, leprosy and other things that he could have healed? But he saw him, this one man, and said, I will help him. And sometimes God does come to us, doesn't he? Does he know we're struggling? Does he know we're weak? And sometimes we're even too weak to even come to him. Our faith is so small. But sometimes God comes to us, doesn't he? And he saw him, and he came up to him. And what happened? And he knew that he had been now a long time in that case. He said unto him, do you want to be made whole? Now the guy could have said, well, of course, that's why I'm here. That's why I come down to this pool. This is why I come here all the time. This is why year after year, after month, I come down here, because I want to be made whole. And this is the only way it will work. In fact, look what he says in verse 7. The impotent man answered Jesus, saying, Sir, I have no man when the water is troubled to put me into the pool, but while I am coming, another steps down before me. Oh, how much this is like us sometimes. God will come down to us, and he will come to us and say, do you want this problem to go away? Do you want to be made strong? Do you want this problem to be resolved? Do you want me to help you? And we say, oh, that's impossible. Because you can't do it the way I want you to do it. You can't do what I'm trying to solve it. I've tried everything, and I can't do it, and there's no way you can do it either. Now, he thinks this is just a man, right? He thinks this is just somebody. And I notice here he says, I cannot get in the pool fast enough. He doesn't even ask Jesus, yeah, can you help me get in the pool? Can you please just hold me over the pool, and when it stirs, drop me in? Can you do something? He doesn't even think that. He's still thinking, who is the only one that can help him? Himself. I'm the only one that can fix it. I'm looking for a miracle, but I'm the only one that can make the miracle. Right? Oh, don't be that way. That makes us weak. Don't figure out the answer and then go to God and say, here's the way we're going to do it. Don't go to God and say, I want a miracle, but this is how I'm going to accomplish it. You go to God and say, what? Yes. However you want to do it, however you want to accomplish it, I trust you. I need you. I cannot do anything. I am impotent. I am without strength. I cannot do it, Lord. I lay it on your feet. Please help me. And even though he didn't do that, I want you to know something. Did God still help him? Not only was this man weak in body, he was also weak in faith, wasn't he? He didn't search out Jesus. He didn't say, yes, if you can make me whole, I put my trust in you. He basically said, yeah, I'd love to, but that's impossible. Yet God, even in our weakest faith, can still help, can he? If we're just willing to listen and trust him even a little bit. Because the next thing he said, verse 8, Jesus said unto him, Rise, take up your bed, and walk. Now, is there still some faith required here? Yeah. Now, I want to note something here, because this is throughout the Bible. When God comes and says, I want to do a miracle, almost every single time, he requires us to do something. And what is he telling this guy to do? Trust me enough to stand up. Now, he could have said what? No, I can't. I've been trying for 38 years. Unless I get in the water, when that first angel goes, I'm not going to be able to walk. But no, he didn't. He trusted him enough that this man said, Rise, I will what? Rise. And that is an appropriate response, right? Even though his faith was weak, even though he had no physical strength, he still was enough to say what? I will stand. And did he? Verse 9. And immediately the man was made whole, and he took up his bed and walked. And the same day was the Sabbath. And he did this on that Sabbath Saturday when he wasn't supposed to be doing anything. But he did it anyways, didn't he? So what do we have here? We have the response of the man. The man did what? He believed enough to what? Stand. Take up his bed and walk. Rise, work, walk. Right? That's what he told him to do. Rise, pick up your bed, and what? Walk. And get going. And he did. And he had enough faith to do that. But what was the response of everybody else? Again, what was the whole purpose of these miracles? That people would know he is God. That people would glorify and praise him. Who should have been the people first in line to worship and praise him? The Jews, his own people. He came unto his own, and his own what? Received him not. These people had seen miracles. They'd seen people healed. They'd seen these things happen. And yet, even as they see this man walking who for 38 years could not walk, not just walking, but carrying his bed, their first response is what? Verse 10. The Jews, and I put this in quotes because I don't know who these people are. We always assume it's religious leaders, but it doesn't say that. It just says what? The Jews. Could be just a bunch of busybodies. A bunch of people who, everybody has their job to do, right? And everybody's job was to make sure nobody else did work on the Sabbath day, right? Make sure everybody else is doing it right. And that's what they were doing. Because what did they say? The Jews therefore said unto him that was cured, It is the Sabbath day. It is not lawful for you to carry your bed. Now, where is that in the law? Yes, it says take your rest from work and things like that, but it does not say you cannot carry a bed on the Sabbath day. That's not a lot of work there, is it? And yet they had gotten to the point where they were policing each other and making sure nobody did anything. And he said, hey, it's not lawful for you to do that. And he answered them, said, He that made me whole, the same said unto me, Take up thy bed and walk. You know what he's saying? I've got somebody with more authority than you. I've got somebody with more authority than the Pharisees and the lawmakers and stuff. There's a man who could heal me. You can see, even in that statement, did he believe he was somebody important? Did he believe he was somebody of power? Did he believe and maybe believe that he was somebody sent from God? Absolutely. Because what? He told me to rise and walk. He told me to take up my bed, so I'm doing it. And that, by the way, is an excellent response to God, isn't it? I don't care what the world says. I don't care if they say it's right or they say it's wrong. I'm going to do what God says. Because who's the greatest authority in the universe? God is. And if he says take up your bed, you take up your bed. Verse 12, Then asked they him, What man is that which said unto thee, Take up thy bed and walk? Who did this? You think they're trying to find out somebody that they could worship? Think they want to know so they can go and find out who he is so they can say, hey, this guy's got power. This guy's from God. Let's hear some more from him. You know why they wanted to know who he was? So they can go arrest him. How dare you say you have such authority to tell a man to work on the Sabbath day? Again, you have a whole population that's more interested in religion than a relationship. And how long has this been going on? Well, forever. It's been going on, hasn't it? And they didn't acknowledge this man was lame for 38 years. They didn't celebrate. They should have. It's kind of like the blind man we saw last week. Did they celebrate that this man could now see? No, they were so more concerned about, oh, what day is it? Oh, who did this? Oh, who's he claimed to be, right? Sad. But the response is not what it needed to be. Verse 13. And he that was healed knew not who it was, for Jesus had conveyed himself away, a multitude being in that place. So he healed him, rise, walk, and then he just walked away. So he had no idea who he really was. But, verse 15, after Jesus comes and talks to him and says, yes, this is who I am, he then goes and tells them. The man departed from seeing Jesus, told the Jews that it was Jesus which had made him whole. And therefore did the Jews persecute. What? A man just healed a man. A man just showed he's from God. The man just did something that nobody else could do. And your response is what? Let us persecute him. And sought to kill him. That's amazing, isn't it? All because he had a man carry a bed on the Sabbath day after being healed from being impotent for 38 years. Maybe he should just left the bed there till tomorrow, right? Where was he going to sleep tonight? I don't know. Who cares, right? We got laws. We got rules. We got regulations. No. We have God in their midst. And their response is, let's kill him, because he had done these things on the Sabbath day. Not only tell this guy, but he healed on the Sabbath. How dare he? And Jesus answered them, my Father works hitherto, and I work. That's a nice Father's Day message. He was just doing what his Father did, right? He's a good example. Hey, I'm just doing what my Father does. And does God the Father work on the Sabbath? Does he work on Sundays? Yes. It's okay to do good on the Sabbath. To do what is right on the Sabbath. It's okay. The Father does it, I do it too. Therefore the Jews sought the more to kill him, because he not only had broken the Sabbath, but said also that God was his Father, making himself equal with God. He there is claiming to be God, and to prove it, I have made a man who was impotent for 38 years to rise and walk. Don't you get it? And their answer is, no, I don't get it. You're breaking our rules. You're ruining our religion. You're claiming to be something we don't want to believe you are. And therefore they sought to kill him over this. And eventually they will kill him over such things, claiming to be who? God. That's the only thing they could pin on him, wasn't it? That he claimed to be God. Blasphemy was the charge against him that put him to death by the Jews. And it started really way back here as he healed this impotent man. So, the response of the man was obedience and faith. Little bit of faith, just a little bit of faith, enough to stand, pick up his bed, and walk. And what was the response of the Jews? We got to kill him. How dare he? How dare he do these things? How dare he claim to be equal with God, having the same authority and having the same power, even though he disproved that he does. Right? Forget the evidence. Why let the evidence get in the way of a good argument, right? Isn't that the way life is? So, what's the true miracle here, though? Is the true miracle that a man who was unable to walk can now walk? Can now pick up his bed, now has the strength in his bones, strength in his body to walk and carry something? Is that the true miracle? It is a miracle, but it's not the true miracle. The true miracle actually happened in the verse that we skipped in verse 14. John chapter 5, verse 14. See, after he got the questions from the Jews about who this was, and he says, I don't know, Jesus did find him. Why did Jesus find him? Because Jesus' work was not done, was it? To heal somebody, to make this man stand, yet not explain to him why, not explain to him who he is, would be worthless. He would have been now a strong man on his way to where? All the way to condemnation. unless Jesus came and explained it to him, and he did. Afterwards he found him in the temple and said to him, "Behold, thou art made whole." Now he's not talking just physically. What is he talking? Spiritually. If you acknowledge me as Savior, you acknowledge me as the one who healed you, acknowledge who I am, then you are made whole. Sin no more, lest a worse thing happen unto thee. And by the way, when you accept Jesus Christ as your Savior, you are made whole. You are also made a child of God. And if a child of God, He may have to what? He may have to punish you if you do the wrong direction, right? You're now on your way to heaven, but I'm going to deal with you. So, hey, tell you what, get right. Do what is right. Follow me. Walk in my life that I have for you, and I will bless you, right? And he says this to this man. And the man is now made whole. What about us? Let's go to Ephesians chapter 2. Has this miracle happened to us? You say, well, I've never been weak. I've never been unable to walk or unable to do things or didn't have any strength in my body. I've never had that problem. Although looking around the room, I think most of us have at some point. I know I have. But that's physical. Let's talk about the spiritual. Ephesians chapter 2, verse 1. What was the miracle that happens to all who believe? Ephesians 2:1. And you has God quickened, made alive, who were what? Dead in trespasses. How weak are you? This man was alive and he wasn't kicking, but he was alive, right? He could get down there somehow. I don't know if he had a little scooter or something. He could get on down there. He can get down there and he can lay there and he could try to get in. He was alive, but he could not walk. What about us? We're even worse off, aren't we? When we're born in this world, we are born spiritually what? Dead. That's worse than impotent. It has no power, nothing, no ability at all. Yet God, by His strength and by a miracle, has done what? Made us alive. In fact, look what it says, verse 2. Wherein in time past you walked. You thought you were walking. You thought you were moving through this life. You thought you were doing all right, right? Wherein in time past you walked according to the course of this world, though. According to the prince of the power of the air. The spirit that now works in the children of disobedience. See, we're like the people last week who thought they could see, therefore they never came to Christ to actually get sight. We thought we were walking. We thought we were doing. We thought we were accomplishing something, yet we were walking in whose light? Satan's, which is darkness, right? We thought we were doing great things. We were being religious. All those Jews, did they think they were doing the right thing? They think they're the right thing by telling that guy, put the bed down, by going after Jesus. They thought they were doing the right thing. They thought they were walking in the light, but they were actually walking in what? Darkness. Dead in their trespasses and sin, and walking in darkness. Can God heal us from that, though? Verse 3, among whom also we all had our conversation, our way of life, in times past, in the lusts of our flesh, fulfilling the desires of the flesh and of the mind, and were by nature the children of wrath, even as others. And then we have that wonderful phrase, but God, who is rich in mercy for His great love wherein He loved us, even when we were dead in sins, has quickened us together with Christ. By grace are you saved, and has raised us up together, and made us sit together in heavenly places in Christ Jesus. He has given us life. He has raised us up and allowed us to what? Walk. Walk in the light. That's the miracle here, isn't it? This man was not just impotent in his body, but spiritually he was dead. But when he met Jesus Christ, he was made alive. He was made whole. And now he can not just physically walk, but he could spiritually now walk with the Lord, right? What about us? That's the miracle, isn't it? Even though we are weak, by His strength and by His grace, we are made whole. So what does God want us to do? Rise, take up our bed, and what? Walk. We've got to do the same thing. Like we started at the beginning, what are you doing? Now that God has made you alive, now that God has given you the ability to walk, what are you doing with it? And let's see, for example, Ephesians chapter 6, verse 10. Read this as part of our responsive reading today. Now that we've been able to stand up, rise up from our weak position, what should we do? Ephesians chapter 6, verse 10, finally, my brethren, be strong in who? The Lord. Don't try to sit there and stand on your own. Don't sit there and say, oh, I can fix this problem myself. Oh, I can do this. I can get myself in the water. I can solve these issues. No. Be strong in who? The Lord. He's the one that has allowed you to stand. Be strong in Him. Be strong in the Lord and in the power of His might. Put on the whole armor of God that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. And do all be able to, at the end of the day, do what? Stand. He has allowed us to stand. We ought to what? Stand. But once we stand up, what do people start trying to do? Knock you down. The devil wants to knock you down. The world wants to knock you down. Even sometimes our own nature wants to knock us around a little bit, right? And wants us to get back down on that ground and act like that one who is without power once again. So what we got to do? Stand in God's might and put on what? The whole armor of God. Why? Because we wrestle not against flesh and blood. Our war, boy, Satan loves it when we think our war is against people out there. He wants us fighting with people. He wants us fighting with flesh and blood. He wants us hating those people, and those are the enemy, and those are where I'm going to spend all my energy. Because if we spend all our energy fighting flesh and blood, where are we going to get? Nowhere. We got to know the enemy. And who's the enemy? Principalities, darkness, rulers of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places, whereunto stake unto you the whole armor of God, that you may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all to stand. And what are they? Loins girt about with truth. Know the truth. Stand firm in the truth. It is the belt that holds it all together, that keeps from all the stuff falling down. Stand in the truth and the truth alone. And having a breastplate of righteousness, doing what is right. No matter what it does to you, no matter the consequence, do what is right. Guard your heart against those who would say, do the wrong thing, do the wrong thing. Stand in righteousness. And your feet shod with the preparation of the gospel of peace. Have those boots on so you can go and you can tell people, you can walk in this world and be able to go and tell people about Him. Taking on the shield of faith, wherewith you are able to quench all the fiery darts of the devil. Having that faith in Him, even if it's small, it's enough, isn't it? And it's the one we can also what? Move around. Hey, they're going to come at us from all angles, aren't they? Swing that baby around. Put your trust in Him. And take the helmet of salvation. Know that you are saved. And the sword of the Spirit, which is the Word of God. And then pray. Right? This is the armor of God. Take these things. Do these things. Now that we can stand, stand firm. Stand firm in His truth. Stand firm in Him and in His might. Right? Is that all we got to do, though? Is just stand around? Is that what we're supposed to do? If you, as a Marine, isn't that what you're told to do? Is in the middle of battle, just everybody just stand there? I don't think so. What do they want you to do? Want you to move around a little bit? They do. Ephesians chapter 4. Not only be able to stand, as He's taken us up in our weakness and given us the ability to stand, He then wants us to what? Walk. Walk how, though? How do we conduct ourselves in this life? Does He want us just walking and doing the same things we were doing before? No. In fact, what did He tell that man? Don't go back doing the same things you were doing before you became impotent. Don't go back to that life anymore. I have no idea about this man. I have no idea what his life was like, but who did? God knew. And God knew, Jesus knew, that if he just went back doing the same old things he was doing 38 years ago, where is he going to end up? In my mind, I always picture that he was a drunk and he walked out in front of a horse. I don't know. That's the picture I get. And wouldn't it make sense that he'd say, hey, don't do that anymore, because you do that again, guess what's going to happen? You lose your life. It'll be worse. Come on, you're old now. Take it easy. You can't do those things anymore. I don't know what it is, but he says the same to us. Now that I've got you up, don't just go back to doing the same old things again, because they weaken us, don't they? In fact, what does it say in chapter 4, verse 1 of Ephesians? I, therefore, the prisoner of the Lord, beseech you that you walk worthy of the vocation wherewith you are called, with all lowliness and meekness, with long-suffering, patience, forbearing one another in love. I want you to walk worthy of the vocation. In fact, in Romans, the same author, Paul, says, I want you to walk in newness of life. We have a second chance here, don't we? We have a new opportunity. We ought to walk in newness of life. What does he say, starting in verse 17? This I say, therefore, and testify in the Lord, that you henceforth walk not as other Gentiles walk, in the vanity of their mind, having the understanding darkened, being alienated from the life of God through the ignorance that is in them because of the blindness of their heart. We looked at this verse last week, didn't we? Why would we, when God has allowed us to stand and go walk, would we say, well, I'm going to walk in darkness? Instead, we need to walk in the what? Walk in the light. In fact, he gives some examples. Verse 23 of chapter 4. And be renewed in the spirit of your mind, that you put on the new man, which after God is created in righteousness and true holiness. Walk in righteousness. Walk in holiness. And by the way, will the shepherd be there to help us walk in those paths of righteousness for his name's sake? Absolutely. But we got to make that choice to now walk as we're supposed to walk. Walk the path that he has for us. Walk in the light. In fact, look at chapter 5, verse 1 of Ephesians. Be ye therefore followers of God as dear children, and walk in love, as Christ also hath loved us, and has given himself for us an offering and a sacrifice of God for a sweet-smelling savor. Walk in love. I tell you, if that's just the one thing you do in life, you walk in love, you will be different from the rest of the world. And who are we supposed to love? Love God. Love the brethren, right? Love our neighbor. And love our... It's a hard one. That's a hard one, isn't it, Raj? They're all hard. Even loving God is hard. But we need to walk in that love, don't we? Love him, give ourselves for him, because he gave himself for us, didn't he? So we need to rise, stand up, stand firm in his might and his strength, putting on the armor of God. We need to then walk in that newness of life, walk in the light, walk in love, in the way we conduct ourselves in this world. And then we do have some work to do. Just like that guy was told to pick up his bed. I want you to notice something. What did the Jews notice about him? Did they notice that his life was now made whole? No. They noticed the spiritual difference? No. Did they even notice that he was standing up? No. What did they notice about him? He was working. He was carrying a bed. And I will tell you right now, the world will notice that first about us. We know we're Christians. We know we're children of God. They won't really notice that. We're walking righteously. We're doing the right things and walking in love and things like that. They will notice that a little bit if they take the time to notice. But you know the one thing they will notice immediately? Our works. That's why Matthew 5:16 says what? Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works. And then do what? Glorify your Father which is in heaven. See, it's not just that we stand. It's not just that we walk. But it's also that we are out there doing, actively putting those things into place and interacting with this world and showing them. In fact, let's go to Colossians chapter 1, verse 9. Let's go 2 books to your right from Ephesians. Colossians chapter 1, we're going to start in verse 9. Colossians chapter 1, verse 9. For this cause we also, since the day we heard it, do not cease to pray for you, and to desire that you might be filled with the knowledge of His will and all wisdom and spiritual understanding. Since we heard that you've been saved, since we heard that you're also going through some struggle, since we've heard all that you're going through, we have not ceased to pray that you know God's will, right? Know what He wants you to do. Verse 10, that you might walk worthy of the Lord unto all pleasing, being fruitful in every, what? Good work, and increasing the knowledge of God, strengthened with all might according to His glorious power, unto all patience and longsuffering with joyfulness, giving thanks unto the Father, which hath made us to meet to be partakers of the inheritance of the saints in the light. And he's saying here basically, we're praying for you that you continue to do what? Good works. That you know His will and that you do good works and continue and increase and you bear much fruit. It's not just standing. It's not just walking in righteousness. It is also then doing good works, doing God's will, serving others, ministering to others, praying for others, giving to others, loving others, right? Love is a verb. It's an action, isn't it? To actively go out and say words of encouragement, to say words of love. So the question I have for you is the one that we started with on your paper is what? What are you doing? I hope everybody here, hope everybody watching has come to Jesus Christ for salvation. You are no longer spiritually lame, dead in your trespasses and sin. You are no longer so weak that there's nothing you can do about it. Hopefully you've come to Him, and Jesus Christ has now, by His grace and by His mercy, given you salvation, made you His child, and allowed you to rise, right? And given you that strength. And I also hope for everybody here, you are also walking in that newness of life. Using that, not walking in darkness, not walking and acting and talking like the world, not out there doing those things, but walking in the path that God has for you. Walking in the light, walking in righteousness, walking in love. I hope you're doing that. But I also hope you're doing something. Right? I hope you're interacting with this world out there. It's lost. Remember we talked last week about the blind person walking out in the middle of the road, the person not paying attention walking out in the middle of the road. What would you do? How many of you would run up and do something? How many of you would go up and push them out of the way? How many of you would grab them? How many of you would yell? How many of you would do something to help them? This world is dying out there. This country is dying out there, isn't it? It's going into darkness. We need to do something. We need to go out and help. What is God calling you to do? Don't look at me. I don't know. I know what God has called me to do right now. What is God calling you to do? Is it, I need you to call somebody? Is it, I need you to go talk to somebody? I need you to help somebody. I need you just to pay attention. How did this whole thing start? It started by Jesus looking over a whole bunch of people and saying, I need to help all of them? No. I need help that guy. My Father told me to help that one. Could Jesus have helped everybody? Yes. Can we help everybody? Say it with me. No. No, we can't. But when the Father says, hey, that guy, that young lady, that kid, I need you to help. God has given us the strength to stand, to walk, and also to what? Work. To do His will. So be paying attention. God has given you the strength to do it. You didn't deserve it. We all deserve just to be that dead body on the ground, able to help nobody. But God has made us now, given us the strength by this miracle to rise and walk. And we also sometimes need to what? Take up that bed. No matter what the world says, we need to take up that bed and we need to carry it. And we need to do the will of the Father. What are you doing with the strength that God has given you?